So me and Tyler, we're still here at Tim Shaw Coffee. We're getting to the end of the day. How'd you like it here, Tyler?
It was really fun. This is a really nice shop here. A little shop that like everybody should like come through, and if you want some coffee, you want some pastries, anything.
They have some good bagels.
Definitely, yeah. Some like a different type of cream cheese. Definitely slide through. Definitely. 104, right?
104 East Main Street. The hours is open 7 to 3 every day except Saturday, which is 8 to 3, because everyone needs to sleep in a little bit,
Yeah. So definitely like people on the way to like if you're on the way to like the bus stop, if you ever want to get somewhere like it's on Main Street, so like you're gonna be able to see it. It's like a little small shop called Tim Show.
There's a cat in the window. It's pretty cute. And it's not that expensive. I know everyone thinks small businesses are it's affordable, and it's nice to support some Norristown businesses instead of Dunkin' or Starbucks. Come to Tim Show. It's just as good, maybe even better, honestly. Everything's fresh.
We have to support what's in our community for our community to thrive. That's what we want. Everybody talks about it. We have to do it. So it starts now. It's plenty of business on Main Street, so start with supporting this one right here.
And speaking of community, our next segment, it's not actually an interview we're doing here. We're going to go back to the high to talk about the art department, our advocacy.
Yeah, the art department took a little trip up to the state capitol to talk about budget cuts in the art program, and also something else, I forget.
They talked about art advocacy, why art is important, not only in the high school, but in the community of Norristown. So it's a nice segment, so I think we should go watch it.
Definitely go find out what the art program at the high is up to.
I'm Alicia DePaul. I'm one of the AP art students, and on the 2nd of May, we went to Harrisburg to talk to senators and congressmen about our art budget.
I'm actually on the board of directors of the Pennsylvania Art Education Association, and one of the things that we try to do is art education advocacy, and we had been looking at other ways to promote art education advocacy. And I had heard about the Citizens for the Arts in Pennsylvania having this it's actually general arts advocacy throughout Pennsylvania this day in Harrisburg, and they didn't really have a big student voice in it. So we knew that people were there advocating for arts and arts education and arts funding, but without students present, there really wasn't a face of visual arts. They had some student performances, some singers there, but no visual arts students, so I thought that would be a really good place for us to have our voice heard and represent the entire state of Pennsylvania.
When we spoke to Senator Core, we talked about how the art budget gets cut to fund the Keystone Enrichment Department.
It's the cardboard, the newspaper, and the tape that they don't have enough. So teachers like Knopf, actually, for example, she asked people to bring in tape or newspapers or cardboard, and they get extra credit since the school doesn't afford it anymore.
I know for a couple months I didn't have a working computer in my graphic design class, and that was huge because all of the work that we do is on the computer, so I struggled to get through work or get assignments finished on time, if at all.
We're running out of paper to even like draw on, and we barely have any paint to paint with, so it's been really hard to actually do art.
The idea is that we were going to sit down at a conference table with a state representative or a state senator and talk about the arts. And knowing high school students might not have the equipment to just go in cold turkey and start talking to somebody, we had them prepare a piece so that they could, in the time leading up to the trip, think about what arts advocacy meant for them, what art education advocacy meant to them, and the most important parts, the most salient parts, put that in an artwork. So one, it helped them solidify their own thoughts and opinions so that they could articulate it, and also it helped us know who wants to go on this trip, who is invested in this trip, and who wants a day off of school. So they had to be invested in this by creating this artwork. We photocopied all the artworks and we made a little booklet. Then we presented the booklet to whomever we were meeting, and we gave out several of these booklets. And then what we did was we just went around the room, and instead of saying, "Hi, I'm whoever and art's important to me," they were able to tangibly hold up this artwork and say what I'm trying to say in this artwork, or why I made this artwork, or why I wrote this essay. So they had something specific to say. And more importantly, the person that we were speaking to had something to take away with them, almost as notes and documentation and something visual for them to remind themselves and remind others of why we were there.
My political cartoon, it consisted of a girl writing on the board, "Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness," with Uncle Sam taking away her marker. So it kind of represents how art is like more like a freedom of expression, and like taking away art from the educations is kind of like taking away a form of expression.
I drew a picture of a girl playing a guitar, and out of it came music notes and also equations that you would use in math. For this, it represented how music and drawing and art in general has gotten me through school throughout the years, and how it's helped me improve in various areas like reading and math, and how it's given me a different perspective on how to do certain things.
My artwork was the Statue of Liberty holding a brush and a palette, because I come from a long line of immigrants, and that was the first thing they saw when they came to the States.
It was interesting to see different reactions I got from like my political cartoon. I got some negative, and I also have gotten some positive reactions to it. The first representative that we've talked to, which was Representative Michael Core, he had more of a negative like reaction to it at first, but after like explained it, he was kind of okay.
I liked mine really a lot because I stated that mine was supposed to spark the American dream of freedom.
It was surprising because I expected a very like a stereotypical corporate environment where they just kind of treated you like another person, but they did take the time to listen to each and every one of us. They asked us a few questions, like it depended on what we said, which is really unique.
Put students in front of them, so they say, these are the people that you are representing, these are the young voters, these are the young constituents, and the people that are being affected by the budget.
I was able to like bring my words and my piece of work like all together to express like how art is an important piece of like for the education.
I think art is important because it helps people express themselves. Some people, usually the art kids you see, are quiet, they don't really speak out too much, and they can't stand out of a crowd, and they use art to express themselves. That's the way of talking to people.
The arts really help people with like critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and that's something a lot of people need in this world.
It gives me that outlet, and I get to express myself, and I really do enjoy drawing, so it gave me that place to use my talents, and it gave me a place to like belong, essentially.
I was really proud of the students. They told some really meaningful stories about what art means to them, and having art class in school, and art class in school meaning to them, you know, what it means to them, not just arts outside of school, but having the opportunity to have free, frequent art classes provided by a certified art teacher is a lot different than having your art come from just community sources. It's going to be fragmented. It might be incomplete. So it's really important that we have it in the classroom, in the public schools, and that's what we were trying to make apparent.
Art is basically my life. It's my motivation. It's my passion. I really do not like English and math and everything. And art is like what I feel good at.
For me, and I know that a lot of the students and friends that I have, art is this other, it's not something that's on a standardized test. It's a way for us to express ourselves, and it really gives us this outlet. So we're not constantly looking at numbers, words all day. We get to actually dig within ourselves and bring out what we feel.
My personal experience like doing the trip was actually pretty interesting, because not only was I able to advocate for the arts, but I also got to know a little bit behind like how certain like stems and like how some of the government works.
Sharing our opinions and supporting art advocacy is very important, because oftentimes people don't share their opinions because they don't think it matters, or it's just going to get swept aside. But it really, our voices have a lot more power than people think they do. So the more you talk about it, the more it's on people's minds, and then it really comes into consideration when plans are being built or a budget is being induced.
You want your voice to be heard, so that like if you see injustice, you can change it.
It's really good, I think, for the students to see that what happens in our classroom here in Norristown doesn't exist in a vacuum, that it is affected by what happens in Harrisburg. It is affected by what happens in Washington. And the idea that arts and politics are not intertwined is naive. And sometimes we naively think that art is, it makes you feel good and it's how I express myself. But that can't be it, because art is highly political. Art in so many ways is a privilege. And it has been like that historically, that when a culture is thriving is when that culture has arts. And if we're thriving, we have the opportunity to have arts. And when the school is thriving, we have the opportunity to have the access to arts. And if we're not thriving, the arts are going to be cut. And we have to understand that it's a political cycle. So it was really important for the students to see that voting and being politically engaged and being an activist for arts is important to having arts sustained in the classroom. That it's, yes, this feels great, and yes, this is fun, but if we are not actively engaged in our politics, it will cease to exist.